Hey, martial arts fans. Welcome to Beauticast, the podcast that brings you the latest news from the world of martial arts. We're here to discuss what's happening in the dojo, the ring, and beyond. From competition results to new training techniques, we've got you covered. And we want to hear from you. If you have any martial arts news to share, a story to tell, or a question you'd like us to answer, send us an email at hello@beauticast.com. Now, let's get into the news.
Welcome to the deep dive. So you brought us this really fascinating stack of sources today that they show this wild contrast.
They really do. On one side, you have these intensely personal secrets of athletic performance.
And on the other, it's colliding head-on with these, massive, almost impersonal structural changes rocking the entire global combat sports industry.
It's the perfect convergence,
Yeah.
The individual athlete's sacrifice on one hand, and the corporation's relentless chase for maximum profit on the other. Our sources really show a fighting world that's, it's in transition.
Exactly. So our mission today is to cut through all that noise and really deliver the three defining trends that are going to shape combat sports in 2026.
Right. We're going to jump into a controversial BJJ training method and its big performance claims.
Then we're going to unpack the monumental collapse of the pay-per-view model and what that really means for the UFC and the PFL.
And finally, we'll get into this nail-biting, high-stakes chess match that's unfolding right now in Japanese boxing. It's a truly global snapshot.
Okay, so let's start with that personal quest, that search for a competitive edge, because this first story from the BJJ world has sparked a huge debate.
It really has.
Yeah.
We're talking about a guy named Nakapan Phungephorn. He's a 45-year-old BJJ black belt.
And he's getting ready for the Masters IBJJF World Championships. So high level.
Very high level. An elite athlete looking for those marginal gains. But the method he used sounds, frankly, ancient.
What did he do?
He publicly shared his whole experience with 6 months, 183 days, of what he called seed retention.
Which, just for our listeners, is essentially a really rigorous commitment to celibacy, abstinence.
It is. And it sounds like something you'd find on a modern fitness blog, but the concept has roots in all these ancient disciplines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from Taoism to certain forms of Hinduism, where practices like brahmacharya were all about focusing and conserving your energy. Phungephorn's basically reviving this in a modern high-stakes martial arts context.
And he didn't just say, I felt better. He detailed 3 very specific performance-related benefits that he directly linked to this 6-month commitment.
That's the key part. He's trying to connect the dots. The first thing he claimed was just, boundless energy and stamina.
So he could just train more.
A lot more.
Yeah.
He said he could push himself for 2, 3, sometimes even 4 hours a day of high-level training. He said that was a massive jump from what he could do in his 30s.
Wow. And the second benefit?
That was more psychological, the flow state.
Yeah.
He claimed that during matches, his mental clarity was so high, he could make these lightning-fast micro-adjustments.
Which is everything in high-level grappling.
It's critical, being able to execute the perfect move at the perfect time. But the third benefit, what he called cascading discipline, is maybe the most interesting one.
Cascading discipline? What does that mean?
He argued that the extreme core discipline it took to be abstinent for 6 months, it gave him this psychological framework to control other things.
Yeah.
He successfully cut out sugar, cut out caffeine. He basically cleaned up his entire system.
So it's like habit stacking, but starting with the hardest one first.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because when you move from his story to the actual medical literature, the science brings in some serious skepticism.
So the experts are pushing back on this.
They are. Most medical and fitness professionals agree the scientific literature doesn't really support these enhanced athletic performance claims from extended abstinence.
So what's actually happening in the body?
Well, studies show these minor, really temporary fluctuations in testosterone, but they go right back to baseline after just a few days. So the consensus is that the benefits he felt were likely subjective.
But that raises a big question, doesn't it? If an athlete believes in this so much that it leads them to cut sugar, sleep better, train harder,
right?
Does it even matter if the hormonal effect is tiny? Isn't the psychological edge the real benefit here?
That's the core of it, really. It's a placebo effect. But if the placebo works, who cares? The belief system is what drives the behavioral change, and the behavior is what delivers the physical gains.
It's a powerful mind-body connection.
Absolutely. The online community had a field day with it, of course. People were calling it the NAC Challenge.
I can imagine. So, okay, let's take that theme of radical optimization and shift it from the personal training room to the corporate boardroom. Because we are seeing a seismic nine-figure shakeup in the entire combat sports market.
This is a truly global pivot. While Phungephorn was optimizing his body, the biggest player in the game, the UFC, was optimizing its entire revenue structure.
And the headline story for 2026 is this landmark 7-year media rights deal.
That's the one, between TKO Group Holdings and Paramount.
And we should probably pause on TKO Group Holdings for a second.
Yeah.
For listeners who don't follow the business side, this is the parent company that now owns both the UFC and WWE.
Yes. This is a massive, consolidated entertainment giant making this move. And the value of the deal is, well, it's colossal. $7.7 billion.
$7.7 billion.
Averages out to $1.1 billion a year. But the real shift, the thing that matters to you, the fan, is that this deal signals the death of the traditional pay-per-view model for the UFC's big events in the U.S.
This is a fundamental change. I mean, those 13 huge numbered events a year, your Conor McGregor cards, your John Jones cards, they used to cost fans, what, like $80 an event?
Around $79.99, yeah, per event.
Now, all 13 of those, plus the 30 other fight nights they do every year, will be exclusively on the Paramount Plus streaming platform.
All for that standard, what is it, $8 monthly subscription fee?
It's a complete subscriber-first strategy. They're betting on massive volume and accessibility over those big individual transaction fees.
And it lets the UFC leverage the huge reach of network TV. Select numbered events are going to be simulcast on CBS, reaching millions of casual viewers they haven't touched in years.
And there's a logistical change, too, right, with the start times?
Yep. To align better with primetime TV, main cards are now starting an hour earlier, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. That change is purely to fit that linear television schedule.
But this creates a huge gray area for the fighters, doesn't it? Especially when it comes to pay.
A massive one. Fighter pay, particularly for the champions of the superstars, was historically tied directly to what they called PPV points.
Okay, can you break that down? How did PPV points work?
It was basically a percentage of the revenue from every single pay-per-view buy after a certain number was hit. So it created this superstar economy.
The more you sold, the more you made. A direct link.
Exactly. It gave athletes a direct financial incentive tied to their drawing power. Now that individual buys are gone, TKO has to figure out a new way to pay those superstars.
So we go from a really clear metric, PPV buys, to something fuzzier, like platform engagement or subscriber counts.
That's the likely path.
Yeah.
And that fundamentally shifts the leverage. It gives the organization, TKO, way more control over defining a fighter's value. It's less transactional, more internally metric-based.
So while the UFC is chasing subscribers, its biggest rival, the PFL, is making its own aggressive pivot under new CEO John Martin.
Martin's an interesting guy, a former Turner executive, but also a black belt in karate. He gets the sport.
And he recognized a problem with their format.
He did. Their seasonal tournament structure was unique, but it often led to, let's be honest, lower quality matchups. It confused casual fans and frustrated hardcore fans who just wanted to see the best fight the best.
So they listened. And for 2026, the PFL is completely abandoning that seasonal tournament format for its global events.
They're moving to the traditional best versus best showcase fights, featuring their top names like Kayla Harrison and Jake Paul. And they're committing to at least 24 events worldwide in 2026.
That's a huge volume increase.
16 of those major cards will be on ESPN. It's a clear competitive shot at the UFC.
But they're not ditching the tournament format completely, are they?
No, and this is the smart part. They're keeping it, but only for their regional leagues, like in Africa and the MENA region. So they keep that pipeline open for developing new stars while putting their best product forward globally.
And their expansion plans really show the chess match they're playing.
Absolutely. They've already announced the first 4 events for 2026. You've got Dubai in February, then Madrid in March.
Which is a direct shot at the UFC's expansion into Spain.
A very targeted move. Then they're back in the U.S. for shows in Pittsburgh and Chicago. So the macro trends are crystal clear. UFC is betting it all on subscription volume, and PFL is betting on better, guaranteed matchmaking.
Okay, so let's move from that huge financial superstructure to the pure pinnacle of competitive risk. Let's talk about what's happening in Japanese boxing.
Yeah, this is all centered around those huge promotions in Riyadh. We're tracking 2 undefeated superstars who are on a collision course for one of the most anticipated fights imaginable.
We're talking about Naoya Inoue, the monster, and Junto Nakatani. And their paths have finally perfectly aligned for a huge clash in 2026.
Inoue is. He's an absolute force of nature. Undisputed in 2 different weight classes, a perfect 32-0 record with a terrifying, 84% knockout rate.
And he just had a huge win.
He did. A unanimous decision over Alan Picasso on December 27th in Riyadh. And that win actually matched a record for the most Ring magazine title defenses in a single year. 4.
He is just a machine. Then you have Junto Nakatani, also perfect at 32-0 with 24 knockouts, already a 3-division world champ.
And he was also on that same Riyadh card on December 27th. He successfully won his debut at super bantamweight.
Which is what makes this whole setup so dramatic, right? Nakatani's move.
That's the whole story. He deliberately vacated his WBC and IBF bantamweight titles in mid-2025.
He just gave them up.
Specifically to move up to 122 pounds to chase a fight with Inoue. It was a calculated, career-defining risk. He gave up his belts just for a chance to fight the best.
And that leads us to this cautionary tale you mentioned in the sources, the curse of planned fights.
Ah, yes. The curse. It's like boxing history's greatest recurring tragedy. It's the story of these mega fights that get announced months in advance.
The ones we all get hyped for.
Exactly. But they're contingent on both guys winning their tune-up fights. And then one of them stumbles, and the whole thing falls apart.
We just saw a painful example of this with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder.
Oh, yes. Years in the making. They were both on the same Riyadh card. Joshua fights Wallen, but just before that, Wilder has this unexpected, frankly shocking loss to Joseph Parker.
And the fight just vanishes.
Yeah.
The value evaporated in an instant.
Another classic one was Lennox Lewis and Tommy Morrison. Morrison was supposed to fight Lewis, lost to Michael Bent right before, and the matchup was just gone.
So by both winning on that same December card, Inoue and Nakatani successfully navigated this minefield.
They survived the curse.
They did.
Yeah, by both performing flawlessly on the same night, they've cleared all the hurdles. They've set the stage for what will be one of the biggest commercial and sporting events in Japanese boxing history next year.
Fantastic. So for our last section, let's bring it all back to where we started. The grappling arts and this persistent, almost frustrating gap between how the public sees Brazilian jiu-jitsu and what it's really like.
The perception problem is incredibly strong. You know, in informal surveys, BJJ often gets named the most useless martial art.
Really? Useless.
Yeah. People describe it as pointless or dancing around or just grab and hold and hope for the best. It just doesn't have that clear, visible impact of a striking art.
Which is so strange when you remember that BJJ is the foundational art of modern MMA. I mean, Royce Gracie dominating guys twice his size in the early UFC.
The disconnect comes down to the viewing experience. To an untrained eye, ground grappling can look complicated, even slow.
And the referees don't help.
Not always. We even saw a former UFC contender, Gabriel Gonzaga, claim that the real Brazilian jiu-jitsu is not allowed in the UFC because the refs break up grappling exchanges too quickly. They want to encourage action for the TV audience.
Which usually means striking.
Exactly. So the deep technical game of BJJ gets cut short in an environment that's optimized for spectacle. But when you look at the pure grappling scene, the skill is just... it's undeniable. Look at someone like Roger Gracie.
10 IBJJF World Championships. A legend.
And Gracie himself had an interesting take. He said all these GOAT debates are basically meaningless because you can't compare generations that never competed against each other.
Fair enough.
But he also made a really telling comment about the money in the sport. He said if modern BJJ paid big money sooner, he never would have switched over to MMA back in 2010.
Which says a lot about the growth of pro grappling now. And you can see that in the results from the 2025 IBJJF No-Gi Worlds.
Oh, we saw just absolute dominance there. On the women's side, Elizabeth Clay achieved double gold, middleweight, and the open class. And she did it with a statistically flawless performance.
Flawless. What does that mean in this context?
It means 8 matches, 8 submissions, surgical. And that run included a heel hook win over Gabi Pisana,
who was considered the #1 pound-for-pound female grappler in the world.
The consensus top name. To submit her is just. It's a statement. The absolute peak of technique.
8 for 8. That's mastery.
And we saw similar dominance on the men's side, with Roosevelt Sousa taking double gold in the ultra heavyweight and open class divisions. We're also seeing this clear rise of European grapplers taking home gold, which is great for the sport's global health.
So we have really covered a lot of ground today.
A massive deep dive. We started with a BJJ champion's extreme personal discipline, moved to the radical overhaul in MMA, with the UFC ditching PPV for streaming, and the PFL pivoting to best versus best.
And we ended with that successful high-stakes alignment of two undefeated Japanese boxing superstars, Inoue and Nakatani.
It's this huge convergence of media rights, corporate strategy, and pure competitive risk.
Absolutely. But as we leave this era of pay-per-view and move into mass market streaming, a commercial structure built for guaranteed spectacle, here's a final thought for you to carry forward. If the media landscape now prioritizes maximum, instant viewership, the big knockout, the simple story, the guaranteed star power you need for a fight like Inoue versus Nakatani, will the market still reward the slower, more calculated, or deeply unconventional paths to mastery? Think about the subjective gains from a 6-month commitment to extreme personal discipline, or the technical genius of BJJ groundwork that often gets broken up by a referee who's just demanding more action.
Right.
When commercial success is measured in subscribers and immediate spectacle, will true technical artistry still earn its keep?
That is the ultimate question for the artist, for the athlete, in this new age of algorithms and mass market appeal.
It really is. Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll see you on the next one.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us to talk about the latest in martial arts. We'll be back with another round of news, stories, and insights. Until then, remember to train hard and stay humble. And don't forget, if you have any news you'd like to share, you can always reach us at hello@budacast.com. Now go practice your forms.